what I'll actually do here at 12 psi, see I have it at 0. I'm going to go here and just put in a value of 10 and commit that because we know we need more duty cycle now that we changed that frequency. Okay, this should be good. So let's try this now. Let's put it in fifth. Control L, start our data log and see what we got. All right, let's do Control L, let's stop. And it overboosted, and I let out right away. Let's see what happened here. Let's go ahead and save this. I believe we had it under a closed loop. Here we go, PID, boost control, let's take a look. Probably had too much duty cycle in the table. We got a little bit too aggressive with it. And we did. Okay, so panning back through the log here, we can see that it was showing us we had 19-20%. It was trying to add a little bit more here. Our target's 14, we're at 12.7. So in this range right here, we probably could step this up to something like 22 or 23. This would be okay. But as soon as we get to the top end of the table, we can see 13.4, target's 14. Boost control was 24 coming from this value here. We were about 27, and we were okay right there. So I'm actually increase this to something like 27. But as soon as we got to the high RPM, we can see it was running about 30, and we hit 19 psi. That's obviously too much. So I'm gonna just go back this down here. I'll go to 27, and we'll leave that be. And then I'm gonna go and populate this into my next row here. Let's paste it, and let's bump it up just a touch. So we have to be mindful of what we're doing here. It still can overboost even with the closed loop kicking in. It wasn't going to be catching all of that, so we have to be mindful. So let's do Shift Control C here, and let's go ahead Control G. Let's back out of it. Let's try this one more time, having a little bit lower duty cycle here, and see if it's going to track straighter, and see what's going to be doing here. And what we could probably do, now that we know the PID is tracking correct, it didn't pull it out fast enough. So I'll go to my boost PID. Now that I know it's relatively stable, I'm going to jump in here and just increase this just a touch. Go to 0.2, and I'll go here into my integral term, my long term, and I'll go to 0.1. And on the lower end here, I'm not super concerned with it. We don't have boost building down there, so 4,000 and higher. And let's do one here at 4,000 and higher. Actually, 4,000 and higher. Shift Control C. And then in the derivative, we'll see how this responds. If we're noticing that it has too much overshoot, we can increase our derivative gain here to dampen out any kind of overshoot as it's spooling up if our P term is too aggressive. So I want to be a little more aggressive here, so it's going to be kicking in and trying to control things. We can see that it just really didn't kick in fast enough as it started to overboost. It should have kicked in. We saw it pull only a percent out here. It wasn't, you can see it took out, about a percent. So it didn't kick in fast enough to try to maintain that boost. Let's try this again. Let's do Control G, Control L, and see if we can make this track a little bit straighter here. All right, let's put it in a fifth. Let's try this again. All right, Control L. Let's go ahead and save this log, and it tracked pretty much on point. And looking at our dyno graph now, we can see it made 640 wheel. I'm not going any higher, so we might be able to tweak our PID just a touch. So let's go ahead and look at this. Let's go to our PID Control